My goodness, I have seen and experienced the struggle to get little children to listen, and I have pulled some of the common mistakes that we may be making as parents that don't actually help in our desires to get cooperation, or at least even a response that they've heard our requests. So today I'll be talking about 3 reasons why your child may not be listening to you. Reason number 1 is that perhaps you are denying your children's feelings. Perhaps your child is fed, they are clothed, they are warm. You know, you've bought the right amount of toys for them to have a choice to play with. And why is this child still crying? You know, whilst we are trying to get some much needed work done right before dinner, the perfect time. And this is when they start just having their tantrum. You may start wishing, I wish I was in Timbuktu away from this chaos. And the aim of the game can sometimes feel like, how can we move on to a happy and cheerful feeling as quickly as possible so I can have the sanity to complete and do what I need to do for dinner or whatever that time is. It can be really tempting to say to your child, you know, it's okay, look, there's your bunny. Oh, bunny's gonna be so upset if you keep on crying. Or bunny doesn't like it when you cry. Come on, where's your smile? Be happy, be cheerful. So tempting to just brush past and move on to another feeling. And what that does, it doesn't allow the child to actually process their feelings, have the words, the right words for their feelings, so that they know that actually, do you know what, when I experience this, I am feeling like this, and I have the right space or the right words even to communicate to someone that, oh, do you know what, I'm feeling upset today, or I'm angry right now, or I want to do this because I'm feeling like this so I can feel better. When we don't allow and when we deny, we don't actually give our children the tools to navigate whatever emotions they may be feeling. And usually that does not help in gaining an effective communication with our children. Communication-wise, in any relationship, having somebody acknowledge your feelings is one of the foundational and also a really powerful tool that can actually diffuse a lot of high emotive situations. So one of the common mistakes is we deny or we dismiss our children's feelings. Let's go to number 2. Number 2, perhaps you are using threats. If you resort to scenarios like, if you do that again, you are not getting this, or you are going to be sitting in the naughty corner. If you finish your dinner, I will, if you don't finish your dinner rather, I will not cook for you ever again. You know, sometimes the threats can just be so ridiculous, just to get their attention, just to get them to listen. The confusing thing about using tactics like threats is that they may actually seem to work for the short term, like quick fixes. They're like quick fixes, but they are actually just an image. They're like a plaster, putting a plaster on an open wound. And each time you look at that wound, or you need to treat it again, you put another plaster. You just keep on piling on plasters. Guess what's going to happen to that wound? It's going to start oozing. It's not going to heal properly. And it's not the long-term fix or the long-term tool to actually get that wound to heal. You know, did it look okay each time you put the plaster on? Yes, perhaps. And as you kept putting it on, perhaps you needed an even bigger plaster. And because it's the previous one, you know, the previous threat that you used didn't seem to actually work this time, now you need a bigger one, and it just keeps getting bigger, and they just keep getting even more, some of them more ridiculous. And sometimes they are threats that you do genuinely follow through with, or maybe you're able to follow through with them. Is threats a tool that you want to instill in your children as a way of communication and getting their desires met, getting their needs met? Perhaps it is, and perhaps if it's not, then it's a tool that you don't want in your toolkit when you are parenting and when you're trying to get cooperation from your child. All right, let's go to number 3. Number 3 is using bribes. Does this sound familiar to you? If you finish your dinner, you can have your yogurt. And if you don't, then there's no yogurt. How about, children, we are going shopping, and if you listen to mummy, I'm going to get everybody some biscuits. Or if you finish your homework, you can have that lollipop, or you can have the ice lolly. Again, in the short term, that may work. In the short term, it looks as though, yes, we have gained cooperation from our children. They have listened. I want to turn your attention to some research that was done on innate desire, our innate desire to do things, our intrinsic motivation. This research was many years ago. One of them was done by Edward Deci. I hope I have said his name right. 2 groups. One group, he gave puzzles, and the other group, he gave the same puzzles. The only difference was that the research ran for 3 days, and on day 2, he paid group 1. So he gave them something to solve that puzzle. What he did was every day, he would sit with them, observe them, and then he would say to them, I'm stepping out and you guys can use whatever time that you have to do anything. And he would observe from another room and see and actually time how long each group took to continue doing the puzzle even when nobody was watching. And what he found out was that the group that he paid on day 2, day 3, he didn't pay any of the groups. On day 3, they spent less time trying to solve the puzzle than the group that were not paid anything. So the second group, who didn't have any external reward or bribe for them to solve the puzzle, their intrinsic motivation was actually longer. And what's intrinsic motivation? Intrinsic motivation is the ability to be a self-starter and someone who perseveres even when things get tough. So group number 2 actually had a lot more intrinsic motivation, or actually that intrinsic motivation was maintained, and the group that was paid, that intrinsic motivation declined because now it turned from intrinsic to extrinsic to external. This similar experiments or research was also, I don't like the word experiments on humans and children, but similar research was done on children. And the task that they had was on drawing. So one of the groups was given certificates to draw and the other group wasn't given any certificates. And by the end of it, again, the group that didn't have any external rewards or external certificates actually spent more time drawing than the group who did have those certificates, did have those rewards, or in this scenario, I'm using the word bribe, but it's a tit for tat. So I'm going to give you this if you do that. So I want you to be conscious of moments that you have such transactional deals with your children. Again, I want you to think long term. What do you want long term? Do you want them to have intrinsic motivation for whatever that task is, or do you want that motivation to move from what's within to the external? Okay, this brings us to the end of our conversation today. I hope it's been a conversation because we are going to get conversing in the comments. I want to know, did this resonate with you? Is this something that actually you've been thinking about? And if so, what resonated? Just by having these conversations, it actually helps me to know that, yes, I am landing what I'm saying and the research I'm doing is making a difference. And if it is, continue doing so. If it's not, then I want to know what you want to hear about. Okay, that brings us to the end. I shall see you next week.